Hi, this is Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson.
What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner.
Hey, I'm Zane Gonzalez.
Hi, I'm Matt Barry from ESPN. You're getting ready to watch one of the best college football podcasts ever. It's the Harris Highlight Show.
You're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
And you're listening to the Harris Highlight Show. Enjoy it.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from Monrovia, California, this is the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this week is our college football analyst, Josh Schaefer, our college football expert, Lyle Goldstein, our salad connoisseur, Brady Klain, and I'm your host for the evening, Blake Harris. How's our Tuesday night going, boys?
It's going well, Blake. This helmet's been sitting in the corner of my room for 4 It's a little dusty. The logo has peeled off the helmet, and it was not even mine, so it does not fit very well. Other than that, I'm thriving. How are you, Blake?
Oh, I'm doing great. Brady, how's that salad?
It's really good. It's almost done.
What kind of salad?
It was a wedge salad, so it was like a big piece of lettuce and some bacon and some blue cheese and some green onion. It's pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that our show's already up to a great start. We got a jam-packed show for you guys. I can tell by the
Lyle,
time.
how are you doing? You didn't check in with Lyle, Blake.
Hey, no, we have no time. We always know Lyle's doing great. Lyle, are you doing great?
Moving on.
I just think it's great that Josh taped an ECR sticker onto a Notre Dame helmet.
No, I didn't. I didn't tape it. These were our old helmets from when I was a freshman, and the helmet is so old now that the emblem, like the actual helmet decal, legit just curled and peeled off. So
it looks like to me you taped an ECR sticker onto a Notre Dame helmet.
It really
it's not
does.
taped, Lyle.
It really does. But a jam-packed show this week, guys. We're going to be going more in-depth on the college football playoff, why it's still stupid that there's only 4 teams, why it's to be 6 or 8. We're going to be going over some crazy scenarios that can happen as to what potentially can happen for certain teams to reach the college football playoff, because there's only 4 spots available. There's about 9 or 10 teams that are still fighting for those spots. So that's going to be up later in the show. You guys can follow the show on Twitter at the HH Show _. You guys can follow us on Instagram at Harris Highlight Show. You guys can listen to our show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The link to that is in the description of this video. You guys can pretty much decide what we talk about throughout the show. Last week, a lot of people were joining on the fun. You guys can support the show by donating to the Super Chat. If there is a game from this past weekend, if there's a game this upcoming weekend, if there's a player, a team, anything you'd like to hear our thoughts on, you guys can leave a donation in the Super Chat. We'll put it up on the screen. We'll talk about it. That's always a whole lot of fun. You guys can also become a Patreon member for as little as $1 a month. We actually, guys, all 4 of us were just there about 30 minutes ago. We had a group Zoom call with all of our Patreon members. We were talking college football. We talked some Dodgers winning the World Series. There's a whole bunch of back and forth going on. It was a lot of fun. So if you would like to be in the future Q&A/Zoom college football conversation type thing. You guys can go to our Patreon. It's only $1 a month for the cheapest option. So if that sounds any interest to you, you guys can go over. You guys can become members. But guys, are we ready to talk some college football from a very, very boring week 11? So I pretty much put this as the tab, and I'm going to open up this to you guys because there was nothing really in the show. I put a few things in the show rundown, but nothing real in regards to kind of like a week 11. So this is going to be a thing where you three, if there's anything from this past week into college football that you would like to mention, to briefly discuss, the floor is open for you guys to bring that up right now.
Is it bad that I don't remember really anything that happened this past weekend in college football?
I will remind you, my Jim Harbaugh Halloween costume cursed Michigan.
It really did. Because was that after their first win of the season after they beat Minnesota? So that means they're
No, that was it after or was it before? I think it was right before. I think
I can't remember. Either way, you cursed them because they're awful. So, guys, one thing that you briefly want to mention and take away from this this weekend of college football before we go to the comments.
On that note, Michigan is. I think I tweeted this twice. Michigan and Penn State, not too good, guys. Not too good. I think Lyle and I had our picks for like who would be the number 2 team out of the Big Ten this year. I said either Michigan or Penn State. Wrong. Lyle said Minnesota. Wrong. Like the Big Ten is just Wisconsin's got COVID. Ohio State looks good. And then we've got Indiana coming out of nowhere, and Indiana clearly a playoff team at this point, right?
We'll get to that later in the show.
Indiana's gonna turn into my new Minnesota, just because like they've won all their games against not very good teams by and a couple of them by close margins. I'm probably, disclaimer, not gonna pick them in the pick'ems this week, and then they're gonna go out and win. Meanwhile, Minnesota's not winning any games this year. One takeaway from the weekend, Josh was talking about Michigan not being very good. You know who is really good? Tyler Shuck. I mean, I know he only played Washington State. I mean, this guy was slinging it all over the field against not a great defense, sure.
He shucked Washington State.
He did shuck Washington State. And I had a feeling his transition would be pretty easy coming into the starting job. And it looks like it's been pretty easy.
You know, Josh said, he's like, Michigan and Penn State, not too good. Well, Sam Howell, pretty good.
We'll talk about him later in the show too.
Pretty good.
I bruised my forehead. Bruised my forehead in that helmet.
That's like me with the Ohio State helmet.
All right, guys. Our man Steven Smith, he comes in with the donation. I think a 2014 playoff would be good for college football. It's what the FCS does for their playoffs. Again, at this point, we're just trying to get to 6. We're trying to get it from 4 to 6, and then hopefully 8 sometime down the road. A 2014 playoff. I mean, let me see if I can get what the rankings are like right now. Like if the season were just to end today, what kind of matchups we would get? Because I feel like they'd be kind of lopsided. So we'd be getting Alabama versus Louisiana. I think I could tell you how that would go. We'd get Texas A&M versus USC. That could be an interesting one. SC might be able to knock off Texas A&M in that one. But 24. That would be fun. I mean, essentially, that would cancel bowl season, I think, guys. I think we'd lose bowl season, and it would just become this December madness of college football, which I wouldn't mind. Play every other day, too.
Look, they at every other level of football, lower being high school or FCS or even above, the NFL doesn't do this many, but they're expanding it to 14, possibly 16 this year, depending on how the rest of the season goes. I think it'd be really cool. Even if they only tried it 1 to 2 years, I'd be interested at least to see how it plays out. I mean, just give it a shot, 4 is not that many.
I don't know. Call me a stickler, but I just think that sounds horrible. Like I think it's cool for. I think getting that massive field of teams for March Madness is cool. I think the 24 field for the FCS is cool. For college football, like I like the way it is with the bowl games and the college football playoff. And like I've said for the longest time, it needs to be 6 teams or it needs to be 8 teams. But one way or another, I think the conference championship games and the playoff games need to be played before bowl season because like Lyle said on this show 100 times, like he doesn't care about the bowl games. Like if you're a guy that's playing in a bowl game that doesn't mean that much and you have a chance to go make money in the NFL, why the hell would you play? And he's absolutely right. Like personally, I'm the guy that's an advocate for playing if you're in like a mid-level bowl game or a top-ranked bowl game. But like Lyle has a point.
we need to make these bowl games relevant again.
Great again.
Because suddenly, we're retiring that phrase now.
Okay. Relevant
let's
again.
retire that
Relevant
phrase.
again, I guess.
So I just I think you need to make these bowl games relevant again. And again, like the San Diego County Credit Union Holiday Bowl, whatever. You get the number 3 team out of the Pac-12 versus the number 3 team out of the Big Ten or whatever it used to be. It's changing now. But like the Rose Bowl now is a playoff game. Doesn't make sense anymore. Like, why not have the playoff game and have the Rose Bowl game? And you can keep those New Year's 6 games relevant outside of being playoff games. That's what I think. And I think if you add 24 teams to the playoff, suddenly bowl games are less relevant than they are now.
Right. So I agree. I mean, it'd be great to see, but just give us 8. Give us 8, and we'll go from there. But guys, I mean, it's the title of this video. It's what we're going to be talking about kind of as like our main thing, because as Brady said, he doesn't really remember much from this past weekend. I mean, there were no good games. There were some okay matchups, but I mean, the Indiana game, that was a blowout. Wisconsin, they blew out Michigan. For the most part, I guess maybe Miami, Virginia Tech was a thrilling one because it came down to the final seconds. Maybe there were some other random games out there that you guys were watching. I know like Colorado, Stanford, that was kind of an exciting one, but overall, generally, it was just a very, very just uneventful weekend. So I thought it'd be fun, guys. I did a video on this, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever it was, but let's just talk about the college football playoff in regards to right now. First, we're going to talk about whether they expanded it to 8, and then we're going to talk about the current format, how there's 4 teams right now, and all the kind of scenarios that could happen, what we can potentially see happen, what some teams need to reach the college football playoff. So let's just say that they gave us all what we wanted, and they expanded to 8. They made it an 18 playoff. Obviously, the season's not ending today. There's a lot of college football that needs to be played. But let's say it ended today, and there were 8 teams that had to be in it. Who do you guys think, as of this point of the season, would be the 8 most deserving teams of reaching the college football playoff?
Here's my hot take, and it's been like this for the last couple of years, and I'm just calling it that. I don't know if it really is a hot take. I'm not sold on A&M. Number 5 in the country in the AP poll at 5-1. They're all right. You know, they had a big win earlier this season, but I think there is a huge drop-off between A&M and those top 4 teams, and it's not close. And I think that you can say the same thing for a lot of other teams, but like I have been more impressed watching Cincinnati this year playing against the teams that they play against over A&M in the SEC. And same thing with BYU, and same thing with Indiana up to this point. We'll get into Indiana in a bit, but Indiana doesn't have any major wins, if we're being honest, with the way that the season has played out. I don't know. I mean, like, is A&M in? Probably. Are they a top 10 team? Absolutely. But in an 8-team playoff, I think they get in, but then you kind of have to figure out, like, Florida's in for me, Cincinnati's in for me, BYU's in for me. And if we're going based off of what's going on right now, I don't know if you put Oregon in. If we're going at the end of this season, if Oregon's 6-1 or if Oregon's 7-0, Oregon's a playoff team for me in an 8-team format. So for me, I don't know if that's bumping out BYU or if it's even bumping out A&M to put in a team like Oregon. But at the end of the season, a 7-0 Oregon team, I think I might consider putting in over a 1 or 2 loss A&M team at this point. But that's hypothetical, obviously. But
I will say this before Lyle or Brady goes. In the video I posted, I said the same thing yesterday, pretty much saying that A&M, I don't think they should be ranked 5th. I think A&M's probably been better than a lot of us thought they'd be, but I don't think them being 5th, I think that's too high of a ranking. And I guess for whatever reason, all the Texas A&M fans out there watched the video and were coming at me saying, oh, they've been so much better the last few games. And I mentioned how they had some close games against Mississippi State and Arkansas, but they said, oh, but entering the 4th quarter, they were up by a lot, and they allowed some, them to get inch closer, which I said, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're leading by 50 going into the 4th quarter. I mean, if you allow a team to kind of inch their way back, you got to put their foot on the throat. So, and I was trying to tell them, I think A&M's good. I just think they're good enough to be ranked 5th in the country. So if there are any Texas A&M fans out there that are about to come after Josh, I wanted to say, I know what you're going through, because for whatever reason, you say they're not deserving to be in the 5th best team or 5th ranked team in the country. You upset the A&M fans because they clearly think that they are deserving. Some of them said they're deserving of being a playoff team right now. So I just had to add that in regards to A&M.
I'm interested to see what they do later this season. The LSU game, I don't have a lot of faith in LSU, but like Auburn, they've had a couple games that have already been postponed. They still have to play Auburn in a couple weeks, but the Florida game is a good win. It is. It's a good win. It's kind of a weird win. Right. I think Florida is a better, it wasn't like the most convincing win for A&M, though. When watching that game, I was not convinced that, wow, this is the biggest win for A&M. I'm sold on them. A week after, they get blown out by Alabama. Like, for me, like, in an 8-team format, I think Florida gets in, obviously, which is saying something considering A&M is ranked higher than them at the moment. But look, like, I would rather see Florida go up against Alabama than A&M go up against Alabama again.
All right, let's just go off my formula here. That's how I'm going to pick my 8 teams. 5 conference champions. SEC, I'm going to assume it's Alabama, so let's put Bama in. ACC, I'm going to assume Clemson beats Notre Dame in the title game, so I'm going to put Clemson in. Big Ten, I'm going to assume it's Ohio State. That puts the Buckeyes in. Pac-12, I'm going to assume it's Oregon. That puts Oregon in. So then that leaves us one group of 5 team. As things currently sit, that'd be Cincinnati. I'll put in Cincinnati. That's 5. Oh, wait, I forgot somebody. Big 12 champ. Sorry. So it's easy to forget about the Big 12.
The Big 12, you still don't get anyone.
Yeah,
They lost their privileges this year.
Big 12 gets nobody. But, I mean, if we're going to do all the conferences, Big 12 would probably be Oklahoma State. So that leaves 2 at-large bids, and that would probably be Notre Dame, and that would probably be between Florida and Texas A&M. And if it's me, I'm taking Florida. So those would be my 8. You got Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, Oregon, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, Florida.
In an ideal world, I would say yes. I just think this is a weird year for college football. If they go to 8, that's absolutely how it should be. You have your at-large, you have, I mean, 2 at-large, I guess. And one, or 2 or 3, I guess.
Okay, well,
that's the way that I would look, because I like, obviously, like.
Well, Lyle, Steven agreed with you pretty much spot on, unless you were stealing his comment, because what you guys said was spot on. It was accurate. Where you take the 5 Power 5s, you take the 1 American. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it's going to be from the American Conference, and then 2 at-large bids. The only problem is with that, especially this year. Like, let's say Oregon has a game canceled, and Oregon wins the Pac-12, but it's like, is it worth it giving them a guaranteed spot when they've played 5 or 6 games where they potentially could be screwing over a Texas A&M who's been a better team? Where normally in like most years I would like that format, but I think again, especially this year, like, geez, let's see SC drops a game sometime this year, but they're still likely going to be in the Pac-12 title game. If SC drops a game and they're able to squeak past Oregon, and all of a sudden SC gets one of these guaranteed bids, then you could potentially have a problem. But again, in most years, I agree. I do think it should be the conference winners and then the 2 at large. But this year it could be kind of tricky. But I'd still rather have that than the current 4-team format.
It'd be 3 at large.
Well, I guess if you're including the group of 5.
Group of 5. I just don't think that.
Group of 5 there.
And this year obviously is a unique year where I think we're all kind of in agreement that if you had an 8-team playoff this year, you have 2 group of 5s. We'll call BYU just for the sake of the argument. You've got 2 group of 5 schools in Cincinnati and BYU that deserve to be in it. But then again, in a traditional year, I think you would have to, you can't just guarantee that there's going to be one group of 5 school that's really good. Like a couple years ago, you can't just guarantee every year that there's going to be a UCF or a Boise State or a Cincinnati out of one of those conferences. Because what if there's none, or what if there's 10? Like, you've got 10 group of 5 teams that are all really good. So
that's why my idea in the past has been with those group of 5 teams is if you're a group of 5 team that's ranked within the top 15, you get the automatic bid. If you're outside that top 15 come playoff time, you have to play a play-in game against the team that would be the number 8 seed to determine who gets into the playoff. Obviously, that would take a lot of coordination, and you'd probably have to cut out some games. Yeah, it is. So, I mean, I just think that'd be fun, and it kind of makes it fair to the Power 5 teams. I want to jump back to Oregon, though, for a second, just because, yes, if they get a game canceled, that is a really, really short schedule. But let's also watch throughout the year what they do, because through 2 games, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do if they want to get in, because they beat Stanford 35-14, and they beat Washington State on the road 43-29. If they're dismantling Pac-12 teams, I don't have a problem with them getting in over a Texas A&M team that did lose. Granted, they played less games, but they'd also probably not play in that conference title game because it'd be Bama. It'd be Bama and Florida. So if Oregon wins the conference, blows everybody out, and is undefeated, I'd still be okay leaving them in over A&M.
I think you're right, but I think another thing to point out with Oregon, though, is something we've talked about on this show. They've played, not only have they played exactly the way that, they should, but they've kind of played how we expected them to. 2 games in a row, start kind of slow, show some life, and then pull away by the second half. And this last week, it was fourth quarter, and the week before, it was in the fourth quarter. And that's how I think it's going to be, at least for a couple of weeks, which is okay. I've said this a couple times. 3 of their 4 starting DBs opted out. They're out with Penei Sewell. The defense is not going to be as dominant as it has been in the past, but they're taking 3 quarters to figure it out. And then in the fourth quarter, they're just blowing teams out. So I think that's something to consider. Like if the playoffs started today, regardless of what your record is, but if you're going to go on the eye test with those top 11, 12 teams, if you're going off the eye test, does Oregon get in? Without looking at the score, without looking at the stats, going off the eye test, does Oregon get in?
At 2-0, probably not. And on that note, I wouldn't put Oklahoma State in either if you're just going to do best 8 instead of the conference champions. I'd take Oklahoma State out. I'd probably take Oregon out, and you put in BYU and Texas A&M.
Well, here's one that I want to mention that someone put in the comments. They were sleeping on Wisconsin way too much, which Wisconsin, they did have, 2 games canceled. Now, their wins have been against Illinois and Michigan, who were nothing at all. But Wisconsin, although they only have, 5 games remaining, they have a chance where it could be an interesting situation where if it's Wisconsin and Ohio State in the Big Ten title game, and let's say Ohio State beats Wisconsin by a few points. We talked about it. Someone's getting 2 teams in. So I think we can all agree, barring a bunch of chaos, the Pac-12, Big 12, they're likely out. And unless Cincinnati gets that 4th bid, one of these 3 conferences, whether it's the ACC, whether it's the SEC or the Big 10, they're going to get 2 teams in. And a lot of people assume it's going to be maybe the SEC with Bama and Florida, or the ACC with Notre Dame and Clemson, which it could be, which again, we'll get to that in a few minutes for potential scenarios, but there's a chance Wisconsin. I mean, they got number 19 Northwestern this upcoming weekend. Granted, I don't think Northwestern is maybe warranted to be number 19 in the country, but they can keep proving us wrong. Minnesota, not as impressive this year, but they're still an impressive one. They play Indiana, who's currently ranked 9th, and then they close the season at Iowa, who's looked good the last few weeks, who potentially could get ranked. So Wisconsin, they can keep racking up these ranked wins, climbing up the standings a little, maybe to 7 or 6. And then again, they might have that matchup with Ohio State, and they could be the team that sneaks in, which we'll talk about when we get to all the different scenarios. But I think the only reason why we're sleeping on Wisconsin is the kind of reason we're sleeping on Oregon in a sense, is what Lyle was talking about, is they've only played 2 games. So at this point, you can only really go off of so much. And again, when you're playing Illinois and Michigan, it's not a whole lot there, but we're not sleeping on Wisconsin. They need a little more games.
The numbers don't add up for Wisconsin. That's the issue.
According to the ESPN FBI and their playoff predictor, the Big Ten has the best chance to send multiple teams at 26%.
See, I find that shocking.
With the SEC being at 17.
I mean, I find that I think the best chance is, the ACC, which essentially if Clemson beats Notre Dame, if Notre Dame keeps it within 10 points, I think, of Clemson in the ACC title game, barring, again, them going with Cincinnati, I think Notre Dame gets that 4th and final spot. And then if you go to the SEC, if Alabama plays Florida in the SEC title game, which I think is most likely, if Florida beats Bama, they're in, and I can't see them dropping Alabama from 1 to potentially 5. I think Alabama would still be in. So yeah, I find that shocking that they give the Big Ten the highest probable chance.
Well, it just depends on who plays who close, because if you get those title games, let's say Wisconsin undefeated heading into that, and Ohio State beats them by 5, and Florida, or let's say Florida beats Bama in the SEC title game by 8 to 10, and Clemson beats Notre Dame by 10. That's where it gets interesting, because if somebody blows somebody out, whoever got blown out is going to drop. But if everybody plays close in their title games, that's where the amount of games and the numerical value of playing those extra contests probably come into play. Just because if Wisconsin, who's already had 2 canceled games, is already on a short season to begin with, is the kind of they played Ohio State close, but everybody plays each other close. It feels like they'd be the odd man out there.
Which is another reason why
we lost Josh.
Which is why Oregon, for example, needs to not only keep winning games, but they need to keep playing games. Because that's the issue with Wisconsin, is the numbers don't add up. So even if they keep playing well, and even if they're not blowing teams out, but say they get to the conference championship and beat Ohio State, like Blake says, they absolutely have that shot to get in. Just like Oregon does if they win out, but they also, not only do they need to keep playing games, They need USC, for example, to keep winning games so that they can beat USC and get a relevant win to get in. But it all comes down to whether or not they're playing games. And we brought this up in our Q&A with the Patreon supporters right before the show. And somebody said, like, we're getting to a point where maybe college football is kind of on life support at this point. I don't think the whole season's going to get canceled straight up, obviously, but like there are so many programs that are losing games. Ohio State loses a game this last week to Maryland. They don't get to play. That's a game that they're not going to get back most likely. So same thing with Wisconsin. They need to keep playing games, just like Oregon right now has all the games remaining on their schedule, unlike Wisconsin, but they need to play all of those games.
Right.
Although I will say with Wisconsin really quick, if they beat Ohio State and go undefeated, I do think they get in. My scenario is if everybody loses, like if Wisconsin lost in the title game, Alabama lost in the title game, and Notre Dame lost in the title game. That was my scenario, and I know you were talking about just a broader picture as a whole. But if Wisconsin wins out and beats Ohio State, I think they get in.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
right.
why now we can make it to the next topic, which is exactly what you guys have been discussing, the scenarios for potential crazy college football play. Before we get to the scenarios, again, if there's anything you'd like to hear our thoughts on, a team, player, game, matchup, anything like that, you've seen Steven Smith, he's been providing his thoughts. You guys can donate to the super chat for as little. I mean, we got my man right now coming in, Connor. Based on the Big Ten rules, if Wisconsin has another game canceled, they will not be allowed to play in the Big Ten championship, even if they win out. Which again, I mean, you can't have a 3-0 Wisconsin team, in the Big Ten title game. So Connor, appreciate it, my man. Again, screw your Virginia Tech Hokies for costing me my parlay, but it happens to the best of us. But yeah, so again, if you guys have anything you'd like to add, hear our thoughts on, you guys can donate to the super chat, just like our man Connor did, just like what Steven did. But guys, time to get to the scenarios because there are a whole bunch. Again, I mentioned I did a video on this yesterday. I had 13 teams that I think still have a chance to make the playoff. Essentially, it's the top 14 of the AP poll, but I take out Georgia and I swap in Oklahoma State just because Oklahoma State has a chance to win out. So let's just start at the very top with Alabama because once you get to the top, there are some easy ones and there's not really a whole lot of explanation that needs to go into it. Alabama, they're currently number 1 in the country. They went out, they're in. And I think you guys can agree. I just mentioned it briefly, but the only chance Alabama has a chance where things can get tricky is if they lose to Florida in the SEC title game. So, guys, if Alabama loses to Florida in the SEC title game, do you think Alabama should still be one of the 4 teams that make the playoff? Because those are the only 2 scenarios for the Crimson Tide.
I do. Just short and sweet. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it comes down to quality of wins, quality of conference, quality of play. Their stats rank, their team stats, averages per game, everything like that ranks among the best in the country. On paper, they are among the best in the country. The eye test every single game, they prove that they are the best team on the field, regardless of who they play. Yeah. And I think we all expected Alabama to be good this year, but we didn't necessarily expect them to look this dominant every single game, which is why I find it very hard to keep them out of the playoff, even if they get upset in the conference championship game. Because at this point, regardless of who they play, if they go undefeated and play in the SEC title game and lose, it's an upset. That's the way I look at it. And I think that at this point, they've proven that they deserve to have a crack at it.
Yeah, I agree with what both of you guys said. And I think, Blake, you know how much I love these hypotheticals. So
I love the hypotheticals more than anyone.
I know you do. So I don't know, man. I think even if Bama doesn't win out, and that includes the SEC championship game, I see no reason why they shouldn't, still have a shot or still get in. If they lose to a middle of the pack SEC team who finds their way to the championship somehow and beats Bama, I think Bama still gets the playoff spot, even if they lose in that conference championship.
Right. So pretty much for the most part, I think we all can agree. Alabama, they went out, they're in. If they lose, still likely a chance they get in. But again, it depends on what other things need to happen. Notre Dame at 2. I think this one is a fairly easy win again. Went out, you're in. You got to beat Clemson again. But this is one I think could be a little more interesting than the Alabama-Florida one. And it all comes down, I think, to this one, how Notre Dame plays in this game. So if Notre Dame, if they come out and they lose a close rematch with Clemson, I think that's one of the ones where, like, let's say that both Alabama lost and then Notre Dame lost, and that's a really crazy one. I think it's pretty much whatever game's closer, they'll get the benefit. But I think if Notre Dame keeps it close, I think they're in. I think Lyle mentioned this when we were doing our little Zoom call before, an hour ago. If Notre Dame comes and they get blown out by Clemson in that game, I'm not going to say impossible, but I'm going to find it really hard for the committee to want to keep Notre Dame as one of those 4 teams, assuming everything kind of goes according to plan in regards to the other teams that should be in that top 4.
Yeah, and so it comes down to what these teams do in their conference championship games for the same reason why, like, Wisconsin, they go to the conference championship and lose. They're probably not going in, but if they get blown out, like, it's an automatic loss. And for a team like Notre Dame, who already beat Clemson in overtime at home, and then they get a chance to play them again in the conference title game, if they lose, if they win out and then lose in that conference title game in the ACC, I think that's a relevant argument for them to still get in. But kind of like you said, if they get blown out, like Lyle said earlier a couple weeks ago on the show, let's say Notre Dame goes 1-1 against Clemson this year. I would prefer for them to lose this week and win the conference title, right, Lyle?
Oh, yeah, losing late.
And the reason why is losing late. So losing late, but think about losing late in the season, but getting blown out. Like, that's a death sentence for me at the end of the season. If it's a close game and they lose, I think you have an argument, but it depends on what else goes on in the other conference championship games. Because it's not like, if Notre Dame loses by like a little bit, they're still in. It's if Notre Dame loses, but Florida loses and Oklahoma loses and Wisconsin loses, then you've got a strong argument for Notre Dame still, even if they lose. But if Notre Dame gets blown out, regardless of what everybody else does, it doesn't matter. You're not in.
Yeah, I think you hit it pretty well. If all the scenarios that favor or that have the favoring teams winning happen, it makes it a lot easier for them. In other words, Bama wins, Ohio State wins, and all the, and the teams following them behind them lose. It makes it a lot easier because in that situation, if Bama and Ohio State both win, the likely 4 would be Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame in some order or another. I think, but like you said, Notre Dame has to keep it close if they want a chance because the storyline, whether it be fair or not, is the best player in the country, Trevor Lawrence, did not play 2 weeks ago when these two teams squared off. So if Trevor Lawrence comes back out and he beats him by 28, that's not going to help him. And not just not help, that's probably it for him. But if they keep it within 10 points, I think they've got a shot.
Right. So again, it doesn't matter if they lose the game. If they're close or they're competitive, that's going to be huge for Notre Dame. Before we move on to our next team, Eli, Hugh Freeze should just turn down the South Carolina job to stay at Liberty. Flames looking great this year. He just signed, I think, the other day, like some massive contract extension to remain at Liberty.
He signed through 2026.
Yeah, 2026. So he signed a massive deal. I know there's a South Carolina gig that's open right now. People are saying Hugh Freeze would be perfect for that. Hey, if he could stay Liberty and just, keep Liberty doing what they're doing, they've been fantastic this year. They're ranked, what are they ranked right here? They're number 21 in the country. They're 8-0. So they're doing a great job. So Hugh Freeze, maybe if he wants to stay in that hospital bed with Liberty and remain committed to them, he'll do that. But money talks, better gigs talk. Although he's accomplishing a lot at Liberty, I mean, how do you pass down an SEC job? But it would be cool to see him stay at Liberty.
Some of the names that have been brought up for that job, for the South Carolina job, Hugh Freeze, Billy Napier is one of them too that I saw that was kind of surprising. I don't know if he's done enough yet or has been around long enough to warrant that job.
No,
he's a good coach, but I don't know if he's enough to warrant it. Jamie Chadwell, Rhett Lashley, and Luke Fickle. I could see Luke Fickle making the jump over to an SEC program, though.
Man, look at Napier, how fast he's ascended in college football.
Right.
Even if he doesn't get the South Carolina job, that's crazy how fast
he's just to have his name brought up and be in semi-consideration.
It's absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
So thank you, Eli. Thank you for the donation. Again, if there's anything you want to hear our thoughts on, you guys can donate to the super chat. Here are our thoughts. It comes up in a nice shiny color. This one's like a what is this? A turquoise?
That one's it's a sea green.
Yeah,
maybe
because we got this one that's like I guess this one's the same as well. I was looking, there were some different ones earlier. So yeah, you guys can.
It all depends on the amount you donate. Is the color.
So hey, it'd be cool if I don't know, maybe you choose. I don't
know how much $100 donation, what color that is.
He wants to find out for us. Yeah. He wants to find out what color you get for donating $100.
I say you donate.
moving on to the next one. We got, I donate to my own channel, so I get the money back. And it's actually not a bad idea. All right, guys, the next one's Ohio State. Again, this one's pretty straightforward. Win out, you're in. But it could be interesting. It depends on who they play, I think, in that Big Ten title game. They're kind of in a tougher spot because they are probably going to stay at 3 unless they can leapfrog someone. So them going from 3 to 4 might be a tough one. But if they lose a close game in the Big Ten title game, let's say it's to Wisconsin, who we just talked about earlier, is undefeated. They have a really good strength of schedule the rest of the way. If Ohio State loses closely to, all right, we're going to get into real hypothetical situations now, guys. So I'm going to throw this your guys' way. You guys that are in the comments right now, let me know who you guys would have. Let's say we have Alabama. They beat Florida. They're in. Let's say that Clemson beats Notre Dame in the ACC title game. Let's say it's a close game. Let's say they win by 3 points. Let's say Ohio State, they lose by 4 points to Wisconsin. Who do you guys have as your 4 teams getting in to the college football playoff in that scenario?
1 sec. Let me get my calculator out so that I can add all that up again.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you say that again?
I mean,
Okay,
that's actually. Oh.
All right.
Go
So
ahead.
you got Alabama beats Florida. Or guys, if we want to get, let's get really chaotic. Florida beats Alabama in the SEC title game. Clemson beats Notre Dame in the ACC title game, and Wisconsin beats Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. And all those games are within 7 points for a close finish. What 4 teams in that scenario would you have reach in the college football playoff?
I got 8,008. What did you get, Brady?
What'd you say, Josh?
8,008.
Dude, I got Cheyenne, Wyoming. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm all over the place. The teams that win, get in.
Okay, so just to clarify, though, you did say that the Notre Dame-Clemson game stays close, right? Okay.
They're all close. All these games are close.
Okay, in that situation, it probably does not favor Ohio State just because of the lack of games played. So in that situation, Wisconsin probably gets in as long as they don't have more games canceled. Otherwise, like Connor said in the comments, they're not eligible.
They're done. Yeah.
So Wisconsin wins the Big Ten and is undefeated. They would be in. Clemson beats Notre Dame, so Clemson's in. You said Bama loses to Florida?
They lose to Florida, but it's a close one.
So Florida's in. And then it's probably Bama. I mean, Bama is currently number 1. And assuming they stay undefeated, they'll remain number 1. So if they lose a close one versus number 2 Notre Dame losing a close one, it's probably Bama that holds.
Which would be, I mean, because that can happen. Like all those situations can happen. That'd be nuts if they did, and that'd be a lot of fun. That would be a whole lot of fun, guys. Before we move to the next one, Victor wants to know what went wrong with Texas.
How much time do you have?
I was going to say I don't think we have enough time to explain what exactly went wrong with Texas. Hey, they're playing Kansas this week. They're favored by 29. Let's go out and let's get a victory. But guys, in a 5-second summary, what has gone wrong with Texas?
Maryland Terrapins is what went wrong with Texas. I'll tell you that much right now. They just had some bad losses. They had some bad losses that, like, sure, maybe you turn your season around a little bit after that early loss, but I legitimately think they had some losses that set the program back a little bit. The double overtime loss to USC, the back-to-back losses to Maryland, the whole coaching situation before you get what's his name? Who's their head coach?
Tom Herman.
Yeah, Tom Herman. I've got Helton on my mind.
Pee-wee Herman.
Yes, Pee-wee Herman. Before you get okay, cool, hook 'em, like you had a whole bunch of stuff that, like Charlie Strong. Like I think it comes down to Charlie Strong personally, but I still think there have been things that have gone wrong both on and off the field with Tom Herman. But I think it comes down to Charlie Strong.
That might have been the longest 5-second explanation I think I've ever heard.
Because I was just gonna go with the simple like Maryland, but then I thought about the Charlie Strong thing. So,
hey, Victor, you're getting your money's worth on this one. You're getting your money's worth from Josh.
You're welcome. You guys don't even have to answer now, Blake.
All right, awesome. All right, guys, we're gonna move on to more scenarios for the crazy college football play that we potentially get. Texas A&M. This is going to be a tough one for Texas A&M because they're not in the driver's seat. These other teams we mentioned, they're in the driver's seat. A&M, unless Bama loses 2 more games this year, A&M can't be in the SEC title game. So what do you guys think needs to happen in order for A&M, without even making a appearance in their conference title game? What has to happen for you think to them to get that fourth and final spot?
Can I answer this pretty quickly?
Yes, you can, Brady.
Every other college and university to basically or literally explode.
Oh,
that's it. If they don't make it to the championship game,
yeah,
they have no shot at winning the championship game, which means they have no shot at getting an almost guaranteed bid into the playoffs.
I think any team that does not make their conference championship game does not have a chance at getting in. This is part of the reason why it was so big for Notre Dame to join the ACC this year, because this was Notre Dame's, in my opinion, I'll get to Lyle in a second, obviously, that, in my opinion, this season is Notre Dame's best chance to make the playoff. They've made the national championship before. They've made playoff runs before. This season is their best chance, regardless of all the chaos in the world and in college football and all these teams, having games canceled, upset losses to teams you should beat and expect to beat, and teams you'd probably beat if you played them again. All that doesn't matter. We've said every year, Notre Dame essentially needs to go 12-0, right, Lyle? Like, they need to go 12-0, and that's their best chance at getting in. Like, you can have all these hypotheticals with Notre Dame, but Notre Dame does what they need to do. You win 12 games every year, you're in the playoff for Notre Dame. If you lose a game, then you need help from elsewhere. Like, that's your best chance at getting in. So I think anybody that does not make their conference championship game, win or lose in the conference title, if you don't make it, I don't think you're in.
Well,
yeah, it's going to be.
I'll go before I get to my thing on A&M.
Oh, I'll be quick. I think it's going to be pretty tough, especially because your one loss was to Alabama. That's basically 2 losses that you suffered, because if Bama loses a game before the SEC title, Bama still has the tiebreaker because they beat A&M. In that situation, A&M still isn't playing in the title game, which does not help their resume at all, because you're not getting a quality win if they were to be there. So for A&M to get in, they're going to need a lot of outside help.
Sorry, I had a cough right there. This is what I think needs to happen. Although it's an outside chance, there's still a chance. This is what needs to happen for A&M. Clemson, they need to lose to Notre Dame. If Clemson loses to Notre Dame, they're done. They're immediately out. Florida, because I believe Florida's right around. Florida's, I think, 6th, A&M's 5th. Florida needs to lose to Alabama in the SEC title game. That needs to happen. And then essentially you're just hoping maybe Ohio State, maybe like Wisconsin. Wisconsin loses a game at some point this year, maybe 2, and they're able to pull off the upset against Ohio State, or maybe some other team is able to beat Ohio State, and Ohio State maybe falls out. I think that's their best bet. Again, they're going to have a lot of things happen, but it's not unrealistic asking Clemson to lose, asking Florida to lose, and then all of a sudden you're having to choose between A&M, maybe like Cincinnati or something like that. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think it's as unlikely as a lot of people think it potentially could be in regards to A&M, but it's definitely not in their favor, especially considering their one game against Bama earlier in the season. They got, manhandled. They got blown out. So not a good look. Guys, before we move on to the next one, which is going to be a fun one, our man Connor wants to know when Virginia Tech fires Fuente after next season. Would it be crazy for me to hope for Urban Meyer or Mark Wright? Who should they actually go for? I'll say it's absolutely crazy for you to go for Urban Meyer. If Urban Meyer wants to come back to college football, he likely has some really, really good landing spots. I mean, there are going to be a lot of teams where if Urban Meyer were to say he wants to come here, they're going to make sure he goes there. And again, no offense to Virginia Tech, I feel like they're probably a lot lower on the list than a lot of other teams. Mark Wright, who knows? Stranger things have happened, but sorry, dog. Urban Meyer, that's not happening.
Here's the way that I look at it. I think if you look at teams with schools, or if you look at schools with coaches on the hot seat, your hypothetical hot seat, I think there are potentially better jobs that maybe, without naming names, there are jobs that are probably going to be available that are probably better than Virginia Tech. No offense. They're still a top program in college football. They're a recognizable name, whatever. But there are bigger programs that I think are going to have openings. And if I'm one of those schools, not only am I not going for Urban Meyer or anybody like that, I'm going for Luke Fickell. That would be my choice. I would go get a guy like Luke Fickell to be the next big-time head coach at a big college football program. So would a guy like Luke Fickell go to Virginia Tech? Maybe. Would Urban Meyer unretire to go to Virginia Tech? Maybe. But if I'm a program like that, I'm looking at Luke Fickell. That's my next guy.
I've said this in the pick'ems pretty much every week, is that I love what Luke Fickell does at Cincinnati. I love what he's done throughout his time in college, but at Cincinnati specifically, is he will be the biggest name, I think, hired this offseason unless Urban Meyer comes back to football. So I think Luke Fickell will make the biggest jump this offseason or towards the end of this season before bowl season, which we've seen some coaches do before. But I think, Luke Fickell will be the biggest coach to make the jump.
Yeah. If he wants to go.
If he wants to, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Where he's got Cincinnati right now at 7, they've been a top 25 team in the last few years he's been there. But now you got him at 7, you got good players, you got everything. You got Desmond Ritter's their quarterback, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you got Desmond Ritter, your quarterback. So you got a good team around you. Why, if you like the culture, if you like everything there at Cincy, at good old Nippert Stadium, you stick around and you get a contract extension.
Yeah. So it's going to be a fun offseason in regards to the coaching carousel. Guys, Florida, this one, it's a quick one. There's no real scenarios for this. They lose a game at any point. They lose to Florida in the SEC title game. They're out. Yep. They beat Alabama in the SEC title game. They're in. So don't have to talk about Florida. This is a fun one because I do want to talk about Cincinnati. I said this last week. I'll say it again. I'm sold on them. I think they're a legit team. I think this is probably – I think they're better than what that UCF team was a few years ago for the sole reason this defense is legit. Like the reason I want to see Cincinnati and the reason I think Cincinnati could compete if they were to go up against an Alabama, if they were to go up against a Notre Dame, their defense. I mean, they have a really good offense, but their defense is so good they could limit the scoring for whoever they play, and their offense could pull off an upset. So I think Cincinnati. I think they're deserving. I'm hoping this is the year, but this is going to be a tough one for the Bearcats. What's up, Brady?
Their defense is allowing 12.4 points per game. That's third best in the entire country.
And not only that, but they have the good defense. They have a reliable offense. And I'm going to bring this up because I ended up not giving him my star of the week, which we're obviously going to get to in a minute. Desmond Ritter, everybody keeps talking about how good he's been. And that's probably because he's shown leadership qualities. He looks good based off the eye test, but he's been efficient, right? His efficiency has been key. This past week, he was explosive. Career highs in completions, in yards, in touchdowns. If he continues to be explosive, Cincinnati is scary.
One knock on Ritter is that he's thrown 6 interceptions to 14 touchdowns.
Exactly. That's the knock, but he hasn't been explosive at all until this last week.
67% completion percentage, which is great.
So slightly above average, I guess.
The good thing for Cincinnati is they have a good schedule to close out the season. They play UCF this upcoming weekend on the road. Again, UCF's not the team they were in years past. That's still a good one to add. And they close out the season on the road. Currently, right now, Tulsa is ranked 25th, so that could be a ranked matchup that they can pull off a victory. And again, I think, and then they're going to have the American title game, so that's another win they could potentially get. So that's 4 wins. And again, I'm sold. I think this defense is one of the best in the country offensively. We've seen what they can do. They can put up points with the best of them. And I really hope that Cincinnati can be the team that makes it. But again, because they are a group of 5 team, it's going to be a tough path for them. So again, let's whip out these hypothetical scenarios, guys, because Cincinnati, they're going to need help. If everyone kind of goes according to plan, they're not going to be getting in as sad as it is. They're going to need help. So I would figure at this point, they're definitely going to need Notre Dame to beat Clemson. They're going to have to have Notre Dame beat Clemson, not Clemson completely out of the playoff picture, and that's going to help Cincinnati move up to number 6. They're going to need Alabama to beat Florida and in the SEC title game. So if that's the case, Florida, they're going to fall out. So if those 2 things can happen, which the Alabama one probably more likely than the Clemson one, then all of a sudden you have that 4th and final spot, assuming Ohio State wins, and it's going to come between Texas A&M, Cincinnati. Maybe they consider a 2-loss Clemson team. Maybe they consider a 2-loss Florida team. I don't know necessarily they will. Again, Oregon, will they be around there? Oklahoma State, will they be around there? I know people are probably going to ask in the comments, sorry, BYU, I love you and everything, but you don't have a better resume than what Cincinnati does, so BYU, unfortunately, you have no chance. I think it comes down to Cincinnati and A&M, again, assuming Clemson loses and assuming Florida loses in their respective conference championship games. That's the best case for Cincinnati to make it.
Yeah, I mean, they need help. And all signs up to this point to them continuing to do what they've done all season. So I'm just going to assume that they're going to keep winning games convincingly throughout the rest of the season and being efficient on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
But like they need a little bit of help. The way that I'm looking at Cincinnati at this point is they're like a team that has been really good that is trying to they're like a team that could lose their conference championship and still get in. So like I kind of view I think Notre Dame and Clemson are really good, but like I kind of view them at the same level as Cincinnati right now. Like, okay, what if Notre Dame gets into the title game and loses to Clemson again? Like, I think Notre Dame is now on that same level as Cincinnati, and we haven't even really talked about Clemson. But like, what if Clemson gets into that title game against Notre Dame and loses again? Like, are we keeping Clemson out? Which, yeah, a 2-loss team, you probably should, but they're kind of at that same level with Cincinnati. So you need help from elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the key is you need the top 3 teams to basically win out, in the sense of you need Notre Dame to win out, you need Alabama to win out, you need Ohio State to win out. If it's those 3 teams that get in, all of them being undefeated, then Cincinnati probably has a decent chance, because that means Florida lost, A&M isn't getting into their title game. You might need Oregon to lose, just in case they look really impressive down the stretch and maybe win their title game by a lot. But the key is those first 3 teams winning.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm looking at this comment right here. If Florida beats Bama, they're in, no question. I assume he's talking about Cincinnati in regards to, not because we talked about Florida getting in. But again, I think this will hurt Cincinnati, because would Cincinnati overtake Bama for that 4th spot? I don't think so. I think, again, they need, Notre Dame to beat Clemson, Alabama to beat Florida, and then Ohio State to win out and then win in their Big Ten title game, because then that could bring in a second Big Ten team. So for the most part, I think Indiana might make it because they're rolling. If Indiana beats Ohio State this weekend, they're just in. They're in. I'm hammering the plus 21, Brady. I'm hammering the plus 21. So I do think Cincinnati, they have it. So yeah, guys, I mean, let's say it comes down to that and you're on the committee. Are you giving that 4th and final spot to Cincinnati, or are you giving it to Texas A&M?
Give it to Cincy.
I say give it to Cincy. Let's get wild.
Yeah, Cincy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, if I was on the playoff committee and this was the scenario, I get A&M, they're a SEC powerhouse. But if you get Cincinnati, and not only are you adding more intrigue to the playoff of a group of 5 team potentially getting in or something like that, if Cincinnati's able to pull off the upset, all of a sudden now all the attention is on Cincinnati. It's kind of like a March Madness run, like one of these lower seeds upsets a bigger one. The national championship is going to be just like, can Cincinnati do this? What's going to happen? And plus, if Cincinnati gets in and they get a win, this just completely opens the door for all these other group of 5 teams now in the future where they can get in. The playoff committee's not going, well, do we want to risk putting UCF in when there's a chance they can get blown out? Which we've also seen, all these these group of 5 teams that have been really good over the years. They play, a powerhouse team in one of these New Year's Six games, and they, for the most part, always win. I think if you're the playoff committee, you got to go with Cincinnati in this one. That's just me, and I think it'd be great to see as well, because as I mentioned, I think Cincinnati's defense, that's what can help them pull off the upset. So that's just my thoughts. I'm on the Cincinnati hype train. I really want to see them in, but they do have to have some things go their way, and especially, again, if Clemson beats Notre Dame in the ACC title game, that could probably be the dagger for Cincinnati, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right.
All right, boys, as Brady said in the private chat, let's move on and get to some fun stuff, which I think we should start with our stars of the week. So, Brady, if you can get those graphics up for our stars of the week, some fun ones this week. As you guys know, every week we give our 4 stars of the week. There it goes. It comes in a little better. Oh, those are some nice looking uniforms right there. We give our 4 stars of the week. It could be a player, could be a coach, could be a team, could be anything. As Brady's got the same coach he's been having for weeks, but he's been riding the momentum on this. So let us know in the comments who your star of the week is, who you thought was the best. So he's on the left. So we'll start with Lyle. Lyle, let's kick it off with your star of the week.
Okay, this guy needs some more love, because I know he's not on a great team. This guy's been going off all year. So my star of the week's Elijah Moore. wide receiver from Ole Miss. This week he goes 13 catches, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm sure Devontae Smith is probably going to win the Biletnikoff. This guy should probably be a finalist. In the games he's played this year, all but one game he's had 10 or more catches. He's gone over 100 yards in 5 of his 7 games. He's gone over 200 yards 3 times. And he's got 8 touchdowns, including 5 in the last 2 games. I mean, yes, granted, played Vanderbilt, he played South Carolina this past weekend. You're putting up numbers like that. I don't care who you're playing. Like, again, Devontae Smith will probably win the Biletnikoff, but I bet you Elijah Moore's a finalist. Like, this guy's been going off all year.
And if he's not, he should pee all over everybody, right?
What?
You don't remember that?
No.
Yeah, he was the one that cost him the game against Mississippi State last year in the Egg Bowl, where he pretended to be a dog peeing on a fire hydrant, and then they threw the flag, backed up the PAT attempt, and the dude missed it.
Oh, that was him? I remember the Egg Bowl. I didn't remember it was Moore.
Yeah, that was him.
It took me a second to get the reference too, and then I realized it was him. So well done, Brady. Well done.
Let's see if you can. There you go.
There you go. That's Brady. That's the photo you should have used.
I thought about it, but it didn't fit in the graphic well.
All right, Josh. Get to your best friend here.
Star of the week, Grant Wells. We're going back to him, boys. My guy Grant, 25 of 37, 336 yards for 5 passing touchdowns. He looked really good. This was by far the best game of his career. I don't remember. I might have had him as my star of the week earlier this year. I know I talked about him for sure, but I don't know if he was a star of the week for me. But career highs in completions, in attempts, in yards, in touchdowns, in rushing attempts. Like, this was a career game for Grant Wells. Granted, he's a freshman, but he's been really good. Marshall has continued to be really, really good this year. And I like him, and the uniforms were good too. So, stick around, see if that's my UniWatch pick too.
On the 50th anniversary of the plane crash as well.
On the 50th anniversary of the Marshall plane crash that inspired the We Are Marshall movie. We Are Marshall. But the Herd, man, they looked really good. They looked really, really good.
Yeah. Josh and I talked about this a few weeks ago on the show, and Blake and Lyle were there too because they're on the show as well.
Yeah,
that's true.
We were like, do I just keep rolling with Tom Allen until they lose? And I said, you know what? You're damn right I'm going to. So Tom Allen's just sort of there to be there because, Blake, we talked about this earlier. You're going to do a video on him shortly. He's the most energetic person in all of college football, and I say that unbiased and biased. He loves everybody. He's so energetic and charismatic and just fun and loves what he's doing. So, Tom Allen, you're once again an honorary star of the week. My actual star of the week, I was going to give it to Kyle Trask. We've given him a star a couple times on the show before. He had 356, 6 touchdowns this past week and a big win. But I'm going with Ty Freifogel. Awesome name. As Josh said, what'd you say? He's great hands and even better name or something like that.
Yes.
On Twitter. 11 receptions, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and it's about 18 and a half yards per catch. So, Ty Freifogel, the Hoosiers wide receiver, I'm giving him my star of the week, along with Tom Allen as well.
Yeah, so hopefully next week Brady's star of the week is Tom Allen yet again, because if this happens, the entire team is going to be his star of the week. I'm going to go with Sam Howell. I mean, this guy, my goodness, 550 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. I wish I would have kept this stat. I don't know if I saw it on Twitter, if I saw it on SportsCenter or something like that, but he was like, it was the first or second quarterback ever to have 500 plus passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. He was absolutely fantastic. I think it was North Carolina's biggest comeback in program history. I think they were trailing 21 in the third quarter. They came back. They won pretty convincingly too. So Sam Howell, a great performance. Well done. Again, getting in on that early 2022 first overall pick hype. But I know he's kind of been quiet this year. He had a lot of buzz coming into the season. But Sam Howell, his best game of the season. You love to see it. All right, Brady, let's get to our uni watch, our favorite uniforms of the week.
Oh, hang on. I just stopped sharing. My fault. We were going straight to it. All right. Here we go.
Hello.
Come on, pop
We're
up.
getting there.
It's going.
Who are you going to first?
There you go.
No, those aren't the unis.
Oh, I know. I just got to click back into the PowerPoint.
There we go.
So first, I'll say this. This was the honorary uni watch that I think we unanimously went with.
Yep.
If who wants to talk about those?
I'll let Josh take over because he tried getting that as his uni watch, but we know that it's the consensus. These win.
I did. So the Boston College red bandana uniforms that are an memoriam of a BC grad who on 9/11 continued to go in and out of the building and help people get out of their offices and back down to the ground floor. And he passed away when the towers went down, and he was wearing a red bandana. Been to the 9/11 museum in New York. They have the red bandana there. It's very moving. But they wear and we'll figure it out. They wear these jerseys once a year, and I believe they're a little bit different every year. And these are the coolest I've seen. These are awesome. I mean, the way that they figured them out, I believe the first time they wore them was when they played SC in 2013 at BC, and they won when SC was coming off like their biggest win of the season. So since then, they keep wearing these every year, and these are awesome. And that was our consensus pick this year.
America's uni watch of the week.
Yes. So then going right into mine, I said, was Marshall going to get my uniform of the week? The answer is no. Went with Oregon State. And I told you guys last year when they unveiled these uniforms that I was a huge fan of these. They've got the unique stripes on the shoulders that like these are the way that these like shoulder colorings are on all of their uniforms. They look like hockey jerseys. And they've got like the I don't know if they're called like a plume or whatever, but it's on the shoulders. They've got it down the sides of the pants too. Just says Beavs on the front, the bold black helmet, and the numbers have like, if you look closely at the numbers, you can't see them on this image with the black, white, and white color scheme. You can't tell, but it looks like the inside of a tree. So you've got like the tree lines and the bar.
Kind of like inside the Nike swoosh you see behind it.
Yes, exactly. And they're not white. They're like cream or like beige or something like that. And they're unique and I dig them and they look really good, better than the old ones for sure. So maybe Oregon State has the best uniforms in the state of Oregon. I don't know. That sounds like a topic for another day though, guys, huh?
Yes, it is. We've had it many times before.
Okay, so here's our winner from this week's poll. If you don't know, every week, a couple hours before the show, we'll post a poll for your favorite jerseys of the week for UniWatch. You as the fans, you can go over to our Twitter at the @HHShow_ and vote for your favorite jersey. So this week I did a couple, and just as a disclaimer, I never put any of them on there that one of these guys are going to use on the show, just so it doesn't overlap. But this week, our analysts were Minnesota, FIU, Ole Miss, or as always, you can comment for other. And Ole Miss won this week. So Ole Miss had their home royal blue jerseys, the white stripes on the shoulders. But I think what got people, if I had to guess, was the Ole Miss logo with the American flag on the side of the helmet. So I don't know. They did a pretty good job with these uniforms this week. So I guess I went back to back with the Ole Miss. So you go Elijah Moore for Star of the Week, and then the fans, I should say, have me go back to back with the Ole Miss with the Rebels jerseys for Star of the Week, or the Rebels jerseys for Uni of the Week.
Yeah, a few weeks ago I had them. They didn't have these helmets like with the American flag on them, but I had the jersey combo saying that they need to make these their permanent unis because this blue on them it looks so good. Like
royal blue,
it's
good.
Oh, they are nice.
Yeah,
they are nice.
I went with Texas Tech this week. I think I ran with Texas Tech a few weeks back as well. But there's something about the I went with Texas Tech I think last week, whatever it is. There's something about the Texas Tech uniforms that always jump out at me. Just how bold the red is. They got the big font, the numbers, black on red on black, top to bottom. It was really crisp, really clean. And had to give a shout out to the Butt Bowl as well. It was Baylor University versus Texas Tech. So when they were lined up against each other, their helmets spelled butt next to each other. So had to give a shout out to that. But Texas Tech, the red jerseys and pants with the black and white alternating stripe on the shoulders and the pants as well, I think look really clean. So mine this week is good old TTU.
The Butt Bowl.
The Butt Bowl. I think that's what it needs to be called from now on out.
And I thought I was the immature one of the group.
You still are.
Dude. You still,
That's
yeah,
true.
you
I still am.
But like, you look at it, it was Baylor University, Texas Tech, so the helmet spelled butt.
Yeah, I like it.
Tweeted it out too.
I'm staying with my star of the week with North Carolina. It's amazing, guys, where every time a team has a throwback jersey from like the 2000s or the 1990s or something like that, everyone just says they look better. North Carolina, bring these back. I mean, these are fantastic. Every old uniform is better than the current ones, but these simple. I mean, pretty much the only thing different is the way the number is, the old-fashioned number style. But I mean, North Carolina, we talked about this before. They're powder blue. It just works. One of the best color schemes in all of college sports in general. But this throwback, it looked great for North Carolina. It looked great when they were scoring, a touchdown every 5 minutes as well. But again, anytime a team does a throwback, no real complaints whatsoever from anyone, and they did these throwbacks extremely well.
Purdue did some throwbacks this weekend too.
I was torn between them, Purdue as well, but I wanted to stay with these ones. But these were fantastic. Any other notable mentions you guys want to give before we move on?
Liked the Purdue ones quite a bit. And going back to yours, Blake, with the North Carolina, it's something about that Carolina powder blue mixed with a navy blue that just works. I don't know why, but it just looks great.
I want to give a shout out to a bad uniform of the week, actually.
Oh no.
I hate to say it, they usually have great uniforms, but Boise State, what are you doing, man?
What they wear?
All orange, head to toe. I'll get this pulled up really quickly. Let's see. Yeah, they were not too great.
Not too good.
Not too good. Here, let's stop sharing this screen so I can pull it up bigger here.
Let's see it, Brady.
Let's see if you can even see that.
Like, they're okay.
I don't mind them.
I didn't like them. Honorable mention though, I wanted to go with NC State's were really good. Black, red, black.
Yeah.
And UCF is always good on the uniforms as well.
All right, guys. Well, that moves us on now to Blake's bets. It was a great week for us last week, boys. Well, as it was a great week, as Brady knows, in Las Vegas. We went 4-0. We went 4-0 last week. Unfortunately, we couldn't go 5-0 because ASU didn't play. So we have to settle for 4-0. My picks last week in Cincinnati over ECU, Fresno State over Utah State, the over in the UNC Wake Forest game, and Boston College. They didn't win, but they kept it within the point total for that one. So overall, we went 4-0 on the season. We are now officially 26-15. So that's a pretty good one. Again, if you guys
tweet these out, like I still don't get why you don't post these every week.
That
would be very high interaction on the Twitter, Blake.
I keep forgetting to tweet them out. So 26-15 on the season. These are the 5 ones I like this week. As I mentioned earlier, bet the house on Indiana plus 21 at Ohio State. Right. I like Cincy -6 against UCF. I like Iowa. They're only favored by 2.5 against Penn State, who has looked awful. Texas, I say this every week, whoever Kansas plays, take whoever they're playing with the spread. And I like Wisconsin -7.5 against Northwestern. Guys, all 5 of these Blake's bets are road teams. They don't have any home teams. These are all road teams. So, again, we're doing really well in the season. Those are Blake's bets of the week. But, guys, I think it's time to move into our Q&A. Again, unless there's anything you want to add, anything you've noticed, anything you just want to briefly mention before we get to the Q&A from our viewers. All right. Thanks, Josh.
You know what? While I'm thinking about this, if you have your Blake's bets, I think we need to make a running Excel spreadsheet with all of your bets in it and track them. How you go along throughout the year. That's true.
All right, guys, time for our Q&A. As always, we go to Twitter for our first few questions. So if you have a question you want answered, hit us up on Twitter when we post that at the @HHShow_. Or if you have a question you like answered, going back to earlier in the show, you guys can donate to the Super Chat. If there's a player, a game, a team, anything in regards to that, or just a fun, goofy question that gets us talking that we like doing on a week-to-week basis. So again, if there's anything like that, you guys can leave a donation in the Super Chat below. Guys, going over to Twitter, our man Gage, who I guess we kind of answered the first part already, but I'll just answer it, or I'll ask it in case people are tuning in just now. Who in the top 10 are you not buying as a legit contender? And who outside the top 10 are you buying as a legit contender?
I answered this a little bit earlier. I'm not buying A&M. I just haven't seen it from him yet. And in terms of a legit contender outside the top 10, I think the easy pick is Oregon, probably. Just a team that's outside the top 10, because I'd say Wisconsin, but they're sitting there at 10 in the AP. So going off the AP, I'll say Oregon at 11. I think, obviously, like we mentioned earlier, not only does Oregon need to keep playing games, but they need to keep winning games. And they need USC to keep winning games, because right now SC's 2-0 in first place in the South. They need SC to keep playing games and keep winning out so that they can get one more good win in the Pac-12 title game, and that's Oregon's best chance at getting in. So I'll say that Oregon is my outside the top 10 title pick. And I guess the same thing can be said for maybe Oklahoma State, maybe USC, because they're still there right now. But they just aren't doing it for me at this point, so I'll ride with the safe pick and say Oregon.
Those were mine. Texas A&M pretender, Oregon contender.
Yeah, I think for mine, I would have to agree with A&M. I said last week on the show is they're the least talked about top 25, 15, 10, 5 team in the country. So they're the least talked about best team in the country. I really wish the ACC wasn't just the best 2 teams playing in the championship, because my team I would throw in there would have to be Miami, sitting at 12. They're 7-1. So if they could somehow find their way back into the championship, ACC championship talks, then I think they could have a shot at making a run towards the playoff.
Yeah, I mentioned this earlier, but unfortunately, I'm going to go with BYU, who's currently in the top 10, because I don't see there being any route for them to reach the college football playoff unless Alabama, Ohio State, Florida, A&M, Clemson, Notre Dame get accused of something and they are placed on a bowl ban. But I don't think that happens. In regards to outside the top 10, I'm going to go with Oklahoma State. I think there's an outside chance they could potentially make the playoff as a Big 12 representative. Again, there's going to have a lot of things go their way, but I'm going with Oklahoma State in regards to that one. Our next question comes from man Michael. Is Penn State the biggest disappointment in college football in the last 10 years?
I don't know if I would go that
the biggest
far. Yeah, that's a good question too. Are they the biggest disappointment of this season? I don't know. Michigan's up there too. I think Oklahoma and Texas are kind of getting back on track. We'll see what happens there. But again, I don't know if I would go 10 years just because this has been such a strange season. And I've said this episode, like every single episode we've done, is like, it's just so predictable, unpredictable, everything that's going on right now. The season is unpredictable. The outcomes are. The season itself was predictably chaotic, if that makes sense. Like, we knew there was going to be chaos. We knew it was going to be crazy, and that's what we've gotten all year. So I don't know if I'll say that they're the biggest disappointment in 10 years, but I mean, there's a chance they're 0-5 after this week, right? Like, that's insane. So we'll see.
I was even going to say mine was LSU. I mean, I know they lost a ton, but you go from winning the national title to how they're playing this year. That's pretty disappointing. We all thought they'd be, if it had been a normal season, like a 9-win team. They just have not had it at all this year. So, look, Penn State hasn't been good. I wouldn't quite say they're the biggest disappointment in a decade.
I want to add this on LSU really quickly before you go, Brady. Brett McMurphy tweeted this out earlier. Last year, LSU was a 42-point favorite against Arkansas. This year, Arkansas is currently a 1-point favorite. That 43-point spread difference is believed to be the largest in consecutive seasons between two FBS opponents. So that perfectly adds to Lyle's claim right there.
I'll say this. In the last 10 years, absolutely not. This year, I'll say one of my favorite quotes of all time. Shit happens. Like, every team's going to have a bad year. Penn State. I mean,
it's pretty bad, though. I mean, they were number 8 to start the season, and they're 0-4, about to go 0-5. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, I'd have to go in depth and look at years prior, so it's kind of tough to say the past 10 years. But I mean, this is a big one. They have a chance to be 0-5 after starting the season. Ranked number 8 in the country. But I know what you mean.
Yeah. As I was saying, shit happens. Teams have a bad year. Teams have an off year. Look at Alabama last year. Yeah, an off year for them was like, what, 3 losses?
Yeah.
In the whole season. It's an off year. Penn State, historically one of the best programs in all of college football. Just a few years ago, I mean, Trace McSorley, I thought was a great quarterback at Penn State. You had the likes of Journey Brown. You had the likes of, not Journey Brown. You had the likes of Journey Brown. You had the likes of, Saquon Barkley a few years back. So you had good players on your team. You still have good players on your team. It's just the way everything is going that it's an off year, and that happens. And the same could be said with LSU. Michigan, I think, would be more thrown into the consideration of most disappointing in the last 5-10 years, and I'd say Penn State would be.
All right, guys, we have about 10 more minutes for Q&A questions, so let's try to roll through these ones as quickly as possible. But normally we end with him, but let's start with him this week's short round. I don't know how he comes up with these unless he spends all week trying to think of it, because they're always something that just blows our mind. If the whole world stopped sneezing forever, how long would it take you to notice?
At least 2 weeks until it randomly popped into my head, like, you know what? Not only have I not sneezed in a while, I haven't seen anyone sneeze. Not walking around, not at the grocery store, not cooking dinner while my dad's watching TV in the other room. Like, I've not noticed anybody sneezing. I would say two, maybe 3 weeks.
Well, go ahead, Lyle. Sorry, I was going to just jump in.
Really? I feel like it would take me months. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I was going to say somewhere between 6 months and a year. Like, I don't know. I don't think about it that much.
I will say this. In the world we're living in right now, where a sneeze is more repulsive than someone farting in public, I think it's one of those things where if it were like right now, like you notice when every single person sneezes around you right now, you're on edge, you're aware of it. Not in a pandemic, worldwide pandemic, I think it'd take me at least a month to be like, you know what? I haven't had a sneeze in a while. Maybe like every time you walk outside, you sneeze, or like I get really bad allergies. So allergy season, I'd be like, I feel really good right now. I haven't sneezed in a long time. So it might be like, a positive thing for me to not sneeze.
But here's the interesting thing, guys. Could you guys tell me when the last time it was you guys actually sneezed, or when the last time you even noticed anyone sneezed? Because now I'm really thinking about it. I couldn't tell you the last time I sneezed. I don't know.
I probably sneezed. I know for a fact I sneezed yesterday because I said, excuse me, and somebody said, bless you. And I remember that happening. In terms of somebody else sneezing, I'm sure it happened this weekend, and I noticed it.
Because I was wearing a mask, and like I sneezed in my mask, and that was just it was terrible.
All right, short round yet again, always delivering. Let's go through these ones, guys. James, who's the most entertaining coach out there? Mine is Lane Kiffin. That clipboard legit went 40 yards in the air. Did you guys see when he chucked that clipboard in the air?
Yeah.
All right, we've done this many times before, but for new people that have not seen what I have to say, guys, just answer most entertaining coach out there.
I'll go Mike Leach.
Love Herm, but for the sake of this show, I'm going to say Coach O.
Go Tigers. I'm going to go Lane Kiffin. Pre-Ole Miss Lane Kiffin. Hang on, let me rephrase that. Twitter Lane Kiffin.
Yes, Twitter Lane Kiffin.
I like it. Yeah, you got to go with Twitter Lane Kiffin in that one. Our man Steven yet again. There's something we didn't talk about in weeks prior, but no need to go in depth on this, guys, because I think we'll talk more Heisman in the coming weeks. So just simply yes or no. Would you put Breece Hall in the top 5 of the Heisman if you had to vote right now? Yes or no?
Sorry, Blake, I'm ignoring what you said, and here's why. He ranks first in the Big 10 or in the Big 12, and good Lord, he ranks first in the Big 12 and top 3 in the country in these categories: rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, total touchdowns, scoring plays, 100-yard games, multi-touchdown rushing games, first down rushes, yards after contact, missed tackles, rushes of 10-plus yards, rushes of 20-plus yards, and rushes of 50-plus yards. Yes, absolutely.
I give him my weekly Breece Hall is very good at the football. Yes.
He's really good. I just don't know which of those 5 quarterbacks I would move out. So I'd put him at like 6.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that, if Iowa State was like a top 10 team in the country, I think this would be a lot easier. But especially if you're going to be a running back and you're going to be getting votes, which is why when I did mine like a week ago, I had ETN there above him, which is because Clemson's better. So I definitely have him probably top 7, top 8, I'd say. But he's definitely been the best running back in the country so far. All right, this next one, our man Johnny. Should the Jets get T-Law? I would expect the Jets to trade Darnold. Where do you guys see him going? I think they're going to likely trade him to the NFC. No need to go in depth on this one because we talked about it before. But guys, each give me a team that you would like to see Darnold get traded to. Just give me the team you'd like to see him get traded to.
Colts.
I don't know.
If you don't, I'll jump in, Lyle.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
will say Colts as well. However, I'll do a different team. The 49ers.
Oh, okay. Well, that was going to be mine.
hate
The thing about the Niners is I think the Niners might trade for Matt Ryan this offseason, which I
Oh,
don't want to happen.
see that too.
I want Jimmy Garoppolo to be their quarterback for the next 10 years. But if I had to pick one,
Me too.
if I had to pick one, I'd pick the Niners because I think Matt Ryan's better than Darnold is. But I'd rather have Darnold go in my own division. But for his own success, yeah, he'd probably do well in Indy with a great O-line.
Interesting, Lyle's take with Matt Ryan getting traded. Is that like a rumor out there, Lyle, or is that just something you're trying to like speak into existence? Because I haven't heard that.
No, I think like
I've heard it a bit. I've heard it a bit.
Like,
All right.
it's coming.
Oh, it's.
I mean-
oh no.
Oh no, he's gonna sneeze. Or we just
Well,
jinxed it. You're welcome.
In all seriousness, like now there's real rumors that they think they're going to move on from Garoppolo after this season, which
Yeah, I
they
saw that.
probably should.
I said this about Darnold to the Colts is he's not at the same level when I say this, is he would be a great Andrew Luck replacement. It's a very similar style of play. They're bigger, more physical quarterbacks who can actually move, outside of the pocket and downfield, and like Phillip Rivers, who Peyton Manning was bad at moving outside the pocket. Oh my God, Phillip Rivers looks like his feet are in cinder blocks and he's sinking in quicksand every time he tries to move. But I think Darnold would be an awesome fit for the Colts.
Yeah,
He'd be a good guy to have play under Rivers for a year.
Yes.
I was gonna say one.
needs
This
some
would be the
leadership.
best, most savage move. Trade him to the Giants.
Giants.
Move on from Daniel Jones. Have Sam Darnold succeed for the other New York team to piss off Jets fans and make them more mad. Guys, Bevo wants to know: do you think Texas is gonna make the playoffs?
No, not even one time. Kind of. Not even kind of.
I do not.
Unfortunately, maybe not. I don't think so. Our man Pac-12 Shorts. Any chance of Colorado making the Pac-12 championship? Asking for a friend who supports Colorado.
I don't know
No.
if Colorado has a hand sign, but I'm doing a C.
Hey,
Wow.
Colorado is 2-0. They are 2-0.
No.
No chance. Sorry,
Not-
Pac-12 Shorts.
No chance.
Tell him that Josh just said no. USC in the first 58 minutes, weak SpongeBob. USC in the last 2 minutes, buff SpongeBob.
Sure.
Seems fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Eli.
I'm just trying to see what else we got here as I go through.
Side
There
note,
are-
USC was winning the whole game against U of A until the final 3 minutes when they lost the lead and then got it back. So
Right, that one sounds good. Can you say anything positive about Florida State, please?
They have
their
cool
backup
jerseys.
quarterback is Chubba Purdy, and he scored his first touchdown last week. That's not something positive. That is a statement of fact. You're welcome.
They have cool uniforms.
And I think eventually Mike Norvell will figure it out there. This is only his first year.
As well.
So
Guys, can San Jose State win the West? San Jose State, they're, I think, 4-0 now, the best they've been since the mid-50s. Can San Jose State run the Mountain West now moving forward?
The Spartans are back. They're the real Sparty. So yes, San Jose State can win the West.
sure, why not?
Yeah, why not?
All right, guys, final question comes from Eric P. Who will win the Ray Guy Award? Hashtag punters are people too.
Damn right they are.
Michael Turk.
Yes. What would his acceptance speech be?
I don't want to know.
What'd you say, Blake?
What will his acceptance speech be?
I can't wait.
Oh
Should have
man,
been him last year.
I don't really know that many other punters. I feel like the couple I did know, like Braden Mann from Texas A&M, is in
Brandon
the
Hyper.
NFL now. Sure. Yeah, I'll go with Turk. Why not?
I'm either gonna go with Turk
Here you go, guys.
or
Torrey Taylor, there's mine.
no, I'm just gonna go with Louis Headley, Miami's punter.
All right.
Like I don't even know if he's good, but he's got the tattoos and he's just jacked and all that.
I'll
Yeah.
pick some Mossy out there.
Yeah,
I'll pick
it's
some
Mossy for
Mossy,
sure.
who's 30 years old. All right, guys, that wraps up the Q&A. As always, thanks for asking the questions. If you guys want to ask us a question in a future show, you can follow us on Twitter at the HHShow_, where that way we tweet out when the Q&A is on. You guys can ask us some questions here. They say Michigan's best position is their punter, so we'll go with him since he's the best player on Michigan. Guys, it's time now for the pick'ems to wrap
He's the
up.
best position player, but yet he shanked 2 punts this last weekend.
That's also true.
That was
Time
Michigan
for the
State.
pick'ems. Time to pick the best games of the week. Hopefully, we don't have a lot of games get canceled this week. There were a good amount that got canceled last week that affected our pick'ems. Guys, here's the update on the leaderboard. Lyle, you're still clinging to that 6-point lead with 86. Brady and I, this is going to be a fun battle to determine second place as we're tied for 80. Josh, buddy, 75.
Dude, I literally don't even care anymore. Like every week, I try to make like an educated pick, and half the time Brady's picks are because why, Lyle? Because why not? And I'm going into the team breakdowns and stuff. Like I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. I'm gonna pick whoever has the cutest quarterback. You know, like I don't care anymore.
Josh, I will say your score. It reminds me of one of my favorite coaches. One of his favorite quotes. He once said, "Oof, magoof."
Oof, magoof.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, Josh,
all right, my dude.
your week to get back into it. And the good thing is, Josh, you get to always kick us off. So let's kick things off with Tulane at number 25, Tulsa.
Tulsa, based off of no research, I didn't do anything to know that Tulane is coming off a big win, and Tulsa has won 4 straight. So I'm going with the team that's red hot, and I'll take it Tulsa. Get 2 ranked wins. 2 ranked wins for the Golden Hurricanes.
Yeah, I'm going to take Tulsa.
I'm going Tulsa as well.
Tulane, you guys won me a bet last week. Tulsa, you lost me a bet last week, but it's a new week. I'm going to go with Tulsa. They're coming in at number 25. Purdue at Minnesota.
College football's weird. The Big Ten is weird, so let's keep it weird. I've got Purdue.
I just can't pick Minnesota anymore, so I'm going Purdue.
I'm going with Purdue as well.
Lyle went from so anti-Minnesota to so high on Minnesota to going back to I'm not picking Minnesota ever again.
They just can't win. Like they put up 7? They scored a garbage touchdown in the final minute the other week. I mean, those were their only points of the game.
Yeah,
like it's
Minnesota.
bad.
I don't know what's going on because I mean, for the most part, especially on offense, they're returning. I think majority of who they had from last year. I don't get what's going on until Minnesota can win and convince me they can do it on a consistent basis. I ain't picking them. I'm going to go with Purdue. Appalachian State at number 15, Coastal Carolina.
2 really similar teams, if we're being honest, except that Coastal is undefeated. App State has that 1 loss to Marshall. I think Coastal's got some better wins, so I'll give them the edge, and I'll take the Chanticleers.
Yeah, I'm going to take Coastal Carolina. Keep riding with America's team, am I right?
That's Indiana.
Yeah, America's second team, Lyle.
Coastal Carolina was America's team. We deemed them on this show America's team before Indiana.
As Indiana.
Well, 1A, 1B.
Hey, I'm still going to rock with the Chanticleers and the Fighting Sam Wiederheft. So
the Chanties.
The Chanticleers. I'm going Coastal.
You know, I want to go with the Chants. They're having a great season so far, but App State, that might be one of the toughest teams they've played so far this season. Appalachian State, you know, they have a thing for pulling off upsets on the road. I'm going to go with the Mountaineers to get the upset. Houston at SMU.
SMU bounce back win this week.
I'm going SMU, the Ponies at home.
Yeah, I'm taking SMU.
I like how you just jumped in front of Lyle.
I thought Lyle went already.
Stop watching Maction and pay attention to the Harris Highlights show. Yeah, I know you're watching the Akron game.
I am.
Boy, I'm gonna go with SMU in this game. Georgia Southern at Army.
Lyle, did you make your pick?
No, but neither did Josh.
No, I'm talking about for the SMU game.
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay, just making sure we didn't totally cut you off.
All right, so here's full disclaimer. I actually did look up this Georgia Southern and Army game and paid close attention to it because this was a tough one to pick. And for me, this one comes down to the running game. Who's going to be the better rushing team? Who has the better rushing defense? And of course, we know Army passes the ball for like 50 yards a game. They run the ball every single play, but Georgia Southern has allowed fewer than 100 yards rushing in every game this year. They've averaged fewer than 100 yards allowed. I think Georgia Southern stops Army enough to get a very close win this week. So I'll go with the Eagles. The Eagles.
Georgia
right?
Southern, the Eagles.
Yes, then the Eagles. I will pick them.
I'll go with Army. Army at home.
I will go Army at home as well.
I'm conflicted. I don't know why I'm so conflicted for a Georgia Southern Army game, but I am. Let's go with Georgia Southern on the road. Because why, Brady?
Because don't steal my damn catchphrase, Blake.
All right, number 7, Cincinnati at UCF.
Because why not?
There we go.
This will be a good test for Cincy's defense because obviously we know that UCF has a great offense, especially with some of the weapons that they've got. But I think Ritter goes off again. I'll take Desmond Ritter in Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati's rolling, and it's pretty hard to pick against them at this point. So I'm taking Cincy. I'm taking Cincy.
The 3 names I've said every week, Luke Fickell, Desmond Ritter, Jared Dokes, a great trio, quarterback, head coach, running back. I'm rocking with the Bearcats this week again, Cincinnati.
Yeah, this will be an exciting one. UCF's going to give them a run for their money, I think, but you got to go with the Bearcats to ride in this momentum. And again, they want to prove that they're deserving of one of these 4 spots. So I like the Bearcats. Number 10, Wisconsin at number 19, Northwestern.
Ramsey and Northwestern have been impressive. I'm taking Scotty by a field goal, boys.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin's rolling. I know they've only played 2 games. Graham Mertz has looked good, so I'm going to take the Badgers.
Graham Mertz having an elite first game, COVID for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then having an elite second game. I think Graham Mertz is one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten, young quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Let's call him that. I'm going to go Wisconsin.
I get Northwestern's undefeated. I don't believe this hype with them quite yet. I think Wisconsin wins, and I think Wisconsin wins big. San Diego State at Nevada.
I'm going to take the Carson State Aztecs in this one. Playing in Carson. I mean, this game's in Reno, but
San Diego's also not a state either, Josh.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're playing in Carson, so I've got Carson State.
Yeah, I'm going to take San Diego State.
I'm going to go with Nevada at home. I'm going to go opposite of you two for this one.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go with the Wolfpack. Did Caesar really stay here? Iowa at Penn State.
Like, did Caesar live here, not stay here?
Caesar really lived here. Sorry. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Iowa.
Where'd you stay, Blake, when you were in Vegas? Sorry, where'd you stay?
The Luxor.
Nice.
Because it was only like $30 a night.
That's because it's sinking into the ground. Literally. It is sinking into the ground.
There you go. Awful sports book. Don't go to the Luxor for the sports book.
Go to the new one. Go to Circa.
Oh.
Blake just never mind.
What game are we talking about?
Iowa Penn State.
So Iowa's had back-to-back blowout wins. I still don't think they're very good, but look, it's been weird. The Big Ten's weird. Like I said, let's keep it weird. After this week, Penn State is 0-5. Got Iowa.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they've just been pretty unimpressive. All their games outside of Indiana have been pretty uninspiring. I'm going to take Iowa.
I'm going Iowa as well. I think Penn State and the cluster of a year they're having so far will continue. No worries for James Franklin's job, though. I'm going to go with Iowa.
Yeah, the last few weeks, I think I've been going with Penn State because I'm like, they're due for a win. They're due for a win. You think here they have to be due for a win. No way they go 0-5, but they've looked so bad. I know Iowa struggled early in the season, but the last few weeks, especially this past week, I mean, I think they beat Minnesota by like 30-something points. They beat Michigan State the previous week by like 40 points. I see no reason why they don't beat Penn State by at least 20 points. So I'm going to go with the Hawkeyes. Tennessee at number 20.
Clean sweep. They're winning.
Tennessee at number 23, Auburn.
Same thing. I keep saying the same thing about Tennessee over and over again. I'm just not feeling it anymore. So I'll go with Auburn.
Yeah, I'll take Auburn.
Hang on. I got to pick up this short round comment real quick. Luxor equals Josh's pick'em.
Dude, I don't need this anymore. See, what I keep doing every week is I think like, look, everybody else is going to think Penn State is due. So I'm going Iowa because I don't think Penn State's due anymore. And then you all pick that. And then later, a game that I like put way too much emphasis on, like, I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to analyze this and that. And yeah, no way they're all going to pick this. So then I pick the team that I think is clearly going to win and then they lose. So like my smart, like, maybe they won't pick with me picks. You guys all pick with me, and then we're all either right or wrong, so I can't catch up anymore. It's just continuing to grow. Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
So Tennessee, Auburn.
Pretty sure we all made our picks.
Nope, none of us did.
Oh, I did.
I did.
So did Lyle.
Oh, I
Stop watching the Akron game, Brady.
I turned it off. I was finding that comment. I got Auburn in this one. Auburn at home.
Tennessee's due for a win.
They
So,
are.
so is Penn State, Blake?
So is Penn State. I have to pick Bo Nix, unfortunately, in this one. We just talked about him a few minutes ago. San Jose State, not ranked yet, but they're getting close at Fresno State.
The Spartans are back with, I was telling Blake this earlier, former Arkansas and Texas A&M QB Nick Starkel at the helm. I'm taking San Jose State to take down the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I like San Jose State on the road here.
I'm gonna go Fresno State in this one. I'm gonna go outside the norm because why, Lyle?
Because why not?
Because why not?
I'm looking at the top 25, and they receive votes. They're currently the number 31 team in the country, so there's a lot of hype surrounding them. But I'm going to go with Fresno State. I think this little Cinderella story for San Jose State. I think the clock strikes midnight this weekend in beautiful Fresno. The battle of the cities no one wants to go to, San Jose and Fresno.
Neither of which are actual states, by the way, in case you didn't know that.
Can confirm Oklahoma is a state, and they
Yes.
play Oklahoma. Number 14, Oklahoma State at number 18, Oklahoma.
This is the first Big 12 game I've legitimately been excited for like the past 6 weeks almost. And here's why. I think Oklahoma's going to win. But at the beginning of the season, my hot take for this season, which we put on Twitter, we talked about it on the show, my hot take for 2020 was that OU loses 3 games this year. They've currently lost 2. They lost 2 of their first 3 games, so I was already looking good. I also picked Oklahoma State to win the Big 12. OU's been playing good lately. I want to pick the Sooners, but for my integrity, for the sake of my bold predictions at the beginning of the season, I think Oklahoma State takes a stranglehold on the Big 12 with a win over OU, and it's the Sooners' 3rd loss of the season, and I am proven right. And if it's not this week, then OU's has to lose another week. But I'm going with the Pokes, baby.
Yeah, I'm going to take Oklahoma State. Oh,
Yeah, Brady, I did.
I can't center it. Oh, well. I'll take Oklahoma State just because I think they're going to win this conference. Oklahoma's been pretty disappointing for the big picture this year. Although, through the last few weeks, Spencer Rattler has been playing really, really well. We'll see how he does with a test like this against Oklahoma State. But I'm going to take the Cowboys. Sorry, Skip Bayless. Oklahoma is not the best team in the country.
After beating winless Kansas.
Yeah.
You know, the weird thing about the Big 12 is I don't know if they've had really any games get COVID canceled or maybe just a few, but whatever it is, it seems like teams every other week have a bye week in the Big 12. I feel like we saw a lot of Kansas the first 2 or 3 weeks, or I'm sorry, Oklahoma the first 2 or 3 weeks of the year. And then after that, we really haven't seen them on TV. We haven't heard about them, yet they're sitting there at 18. I'm going to go Oklahoma on this one. I like the Sooners to get back on track in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Oklahoma as well. I would like to see Oklahoma State win this game, but for the regards to my pick 'em points, I'm going to go with the Sooners. Number 21, Liberty at NC State.
Liberty already has 2 ACC wins this year. They will cement themselves into the ACC picture next year. They're going to say, hey, sorry, Notre Dame, you guys can get lost, and we're going to add Liberty because they will finish this weekend with their 3rd win over an ACC opponent. I've got the Flames, the pride of Lynchburg, Virginia, because I don't think there's much else in Lynchburg.
See, Liberty's ranked, but I'm sitting here feeling like I should pick North Carolina State because they're the home team. They're the Power 5 team. But like you just talked about, Liberty's beaten 2 ACC teams this year, and they're still undefeated. Like, they're having a really, really good year. I'm going to take Liberty. It's against my gut, but I'm going to roll with the hot hand and take Liberty.
Well, Josh, in Lynchburg, Virginia, there is a place called Amazement Square.
Wow.
It's an interactive children's museum with a climbing tower.
Wow.
And therefore, since it is called Amazement Square, I think Liberty will continue to amaze everybody else and get their, like you said, 3rd ACC win. I'm rolling with the Flames.
Also, their stadium looks dope. I just looked it up.
States or Liberties?
Liberties.
It might. Well,
That's cool.
Liberty is due for an ACC loss. and it's going to happen this weekend on the road at NC State. Number 20, USC at Utah.
Hang on, really quickly. I just looked this up. Liberty also has this mountain called Snowflex Center. That's like artificial, not snow, but like a giant tarp or whatever that you can ski, snowboard, and tube year round.
Wow. What about during COVID?
I don't think so.
Then again, the school president literally said, "Nah, we're just gonna have classes anyway." And this was in March.
They were the one school to continue in-person classes.
Like right when everybody else canceled.
Yeah.
Nah. So who knows? It's probably open. What game, Blake?
USC Utah. Your
It
guys.
says it on the bottom of the screen, Josh.
Oh, well, some people listen to the podcast.
Oh.
And I interrupt it.
Blake,
So there we go.
Which Blake, the host, completely forgets every week. So number 20, USC and Utah. I think SC comes out fired up for this game. I said this last week. Utah hasn't played a game yet. But look, like everybody keeps saying SC got played out by U of A. They did not. I thought they were the better team for the whole game. You can look at the box score. They outpassed them. They outrushed them. The defense was better. They were more efficient with the football. The issue was penalties. If USC limits the penalties, I think they're due for a huge win this week over Utah, who hasn't played a game yet. Week 1, SC got outplayed convincingly by Arizona State and stole the game in the final 2 minutes. So I'll give that game to USC getting outplayed. This past week, penalties were the reason U of A is in the game. I think USC spends all week trying to figure out those penalties. I think SC beats Utah on the road this week if they play.
I'll be interested to see what Utah looks like as a team this year, just because usually they are pretty good, although they lost a lot from last year to this year. And I know USC's been in a couple close games, but I think SC is the better team. So I'll go with the Trojans.
Yeah, I'm going to go with USC in this one. However, it's going to be very close. Bear on game day a few weeks back dropped a stat where it's like, teams that have played a game playing against a team that has not played a game so far this year because of offsetting schedules and cancellations. The teams that haven't played a game actually have a better record against those teams. So I looked at it. I was considering it, but I'm going to go with USC in this one just because we've seen them so far and we've seen them improve game to game. We just haven't seen anything from Utah. I'm going to go with USC.
It'd be fun to go with Utah just for that stat goes to good use, but I think USC, I don't think this is going to be one of those close ones. Utah's probably the best team. I guess aside from ASU, but Utah's better than Arizona, but I think USC, I would hope that they don't pull what they've been doing the last 2 weeks. So I'm going to go with the Trojans. The worst of the worst, guys, East Carolina at Temple.
This one comes down to the logos for me. So for Temple, you have a very uninspiring T versus a purple, gold, and black pirate with the skull and crossbones, wearing a hat and everything. Give me East Carolina all damn day. I've got ECU.
I like ECU too. I don't have a reason. I just like them.
No reason. You just like
fighting Gardner Minshew's.
There you go.
I'm going to go with ECU, and I have a reason. Wait, why'd you? Oh, Gardner got it. I'm going to go ECU, and I have a reason. It's because a few years back, when he was a hot commodity and was invited to the Combine, I was flying to Indianapolis for the Combine, and in the airport, I saw Zay Jones. Speed demon, great college wide receiver. What the hell has he done recently?
I believe he also has the record for most career catches in college football history. I think.
Yes, I got that right on the trivia show, baby.
Yes, I think
got that right.
And so, for that reason, that I saw an actual ECU player in person at one point in my life, and I probably haven't seen the Temple player at one point in my life, I'm going to go ECU.
Guys, in a battle between a pirate and an owl, who do you think would win?
Who?
The owl.
Who?
Oh, well,
all right, I'm taking the Pirates because Josh was frozen. Guys, normally we do ASU for the last game because they're our, alma mater, but unfortunately, their game's already been canceled. So we're adopting our new team, the Indiana Hoosiers, number 9 in the country at number 3, Ohio State. Indiana currently is plus 21 on the odds makers picks.
I don't like that.
They don't either.
I know Lyle thinks this game's going to be a blowout. I do not. I really wanted to pick Indiana going into this game because I get that they haven't beat a very impressive team yet. Neither has Ohio State. So the quality of wins is similar for both teams. And I wanted to pick IU, but Ohio State didn't play last week. They've had almost 2 full weeks to get ready for Indiana, okay? And Indiana played this past Saturday. Ohio State did not. And it's also very hard to pick against Justin Fields. So for that, I'm going to go with the Buckeyes. I think it's a 10-point game. I think Indiana battles, but I do think Ohio State's the better team. So I'll take the Buckeyes.
Listen, I've been known to get Big Ten predictions wrong, as evident from last year with Minnesota, as evident from this year with Minnesota. But I just look at what Indiana's done, and I don't want to take anything away from them because they're 4-0. They've earned everything they've gotten so far. But they gave up 35 points to Sean Clifford. They gave up to Verdal for Rutgers. They gave up 21 points to Joe Milton for Michigan. They did shut out Michigan State. But they're going against a guy that's completing 87% of his passes. He's thrown the same amount of touchdowns this year as he's thrown incompletions. And along with that, they're going up against 2 really, really lethal receivers. I think Indiana keeps it close for, I'll give them a half, maybe the end of the first half, but I think Ohio State does handle them.
This is one thing that I've looked at about this game, and leading up to it, I'm like, we have a chance. And, I'm optimistic as everybody else. I'm a realist like everybody else. I got an Ohio State helmet right here, and I think, nope, not a chance. Not a chance. The one time I can confidently, semi-confidently pick Indiana in a big game, I am going to hammer the Hoosiers, not only to cover, but to win. I'm going the Hoosiers because why all 3 of you? Because I can and I'm going to.
That was like a Lee Corso. You're like, here's who I'm picking this week. Oh wait, nope.
That's why I threw the helmet, and luckily it didn't bounce in any of the cabinets.
There you go. Again, I said this numerous times. I love Indiana plus 21. I think it's a great line. Lyle doesn't think it'll be close. Josh and I think it will be. Brady thinks they win. I'll be pulling for Indiana because I want chaos. I want this. I'm on the Tom Allen hype train now. I love this guy. Watching his pregame speeches and postgame speeches are great. But I do need to make a comeback in this and get points, and this could help me leapfrog over Brady. So I do have to pick Ohio State. I'm picking them for this, but I want Indiana to win. So there we go about that.
Oh, I fully think Ohio State will win. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm just worth risking a point, which is why I offset it with a couple other picks in the pick'ems here. So I was able to confidently pick Indiana. You got to play strategy, Blake. You got to play strategy.
Yeah, that one I do. So sorry, I'm just sending a text to my uncle right now. Let me send that. And there we go. But that does wrap up this week's show. What? Hey, he was asking me if I like Clemson minus 35 over Florida State.
You could have waited a minute.
You could have waited 1 minute to wrap up the show.
That's true. But that does wrap up this week's show of the Harris Highlight Show. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _. Again, it's a must follow if you're on Twitter. You can stay up to date with everything, and you guys can ask us Q&A questions moving forward. You guys can follow us on Instagram at Harris Highlight Show, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're over there. Just search Harris Highlight Show. You guys can find us. You guys can listen if you ever miss a show. If you guys want to go back and listen to a segment when you're in the car, if you're in the gym, wherever you're at, you guys can listen to us there. You guys can become Patreon members for little as $1 a month. Again, we did a Zoom Q&A with everyone for about 30 minutes. It was a lot of fun. So if you want to get in on the next Zoom Q&A where you guys can be on a Zoom with us, other college football fans, just talking college football, asking questions to one another. Again, a little as $1 a month. Guys, any parting words before we hang out or before we leave to end the show? I am losing my mind here.
You're crazy, Blake.
It's time to vote Blake off the island.
I agree. Write it on your piece of paper and fold it up. Come on.
There you go.
All right. Let's do our score prediction game for this week. Do we want to do Indiana, Ohio State? Noon Eastern?
Let's do Indiana, Ohio State, noon Eastern. Follow us on Twitter. If you guys guess the score correctly, you guys will be taking home some cash. Still to be determined, depending on how generous these other guys want to get. But
at least $50.
At least $50 you'll be taking home if you correctly guess the winner along with these score predictions. So make sure you go follow us on Twitter at the HH Show _.
And remember, you have to be a follower of the show to win.
There you go. All right, guys. Anything else you guys would like to add before we head out this weekend?
Go Hoosiers.
Yeah,
Go
you know
Hoosiers.
what? I was gonna say go Devils, but so go Hoosiers. Also, my Dodgers championship shirt came in the mail today, Blake.
There you go.
Surprised
put
you're
it
not
on.
wearing it.
I had to put it in it was very staticky, and I figured I would
Oh.
wash it first.
Nice. Okay. Lyle?
You know what? Good luck, Brady. You're gonna need it.
You're gonna need it.
Yeah.
Sounds
All
like
right,
a
well,
threat.
Yeah.
It does. Good luck. You're gonna need it. For Josh Schaefer, Lyle Goldstein, Brady Klinsman, Blake Harris from Harris headquarters here in Monrovia, California.
I like that.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Follow us everywhere. Like the show, comment, Patreon, everything you want to do. Brady has something he wants to say.
You're at the HHHQ, right?
I'm at the HHHHHQ.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to see you guys right back here again next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. This has been the Harris Highlight Show.
Oh, and